Good evening, welcome back. I did eat my food and uploading. Like I said in my last part of the video, I've been in Jerusalem in my early 20s, but that was around year 1990, so that was very many years ago. When I was a teenager, I was very Christian. I was a born again Christian, and I did read in the Bible a lot, and I did believe Israel was a holy land. But I stopped being a Christian when I was a teenager. So let's try reading this. I'd like to get back to Jerusalem one day and record some video.
Initial attitude changed over the next 50 years, until 1997, when at the Vatican Symposium of that year, Pope John Paul II rejected the Christian roots of antisemitism, stating that the wrong and unjust interpretations of the New Testament relating to the Jewish people and their supposed guilt in Christ's death circulated for too long, engendering sentiments of hostility toward this people. 241. Characterization as colonialist and racist. David Ben-Gurion stated that there will be no discrimination among citizens of the Jewish state on the basis of race, religion, sex, or class. 242. Likewise, Vladimir Jabotinsky avowed the minority will not be rendered defenseless. The aim of democracy is to guarantee that the minority too has influence on matters of state policy. 243. Supporters of Zionism, such as Chaim Herzog, argue that the movement is non-discriminatory and contains no racist aspects. 244. Pro-Palestinian protest with placards demanding the U.S. to stop funding of Israeli apartheid in Washington, D.C. 2017. However, some critics of Zionism consider it a colonialist, 23, or racist, 24, movement. According to historian Avi Eichlein, throughout its history up to present day, Zionism is replete with manifestations of deep hostility and contempt towards the indigenous population. Schlein balances this by pointing out that there have always been individuals within the Zionist movement that have criticized such attitudes. He cites the example of Ahad Ha'aram, who after visiting Palestine in 1891, published a series of articles criticizing the aggressive behavior and political ethnocentrism of Zionist settlers. Ha'aram reportedly wrote that the Yishuv behavior towards the Arabs with hostility and cruelty, trespass unjustly upon their boundaries, beat them shamefully without reason and even brag about it, and nobody stands to check this contemptibly dangerous tendency, and that they believe that the only language that the Arabs understand is that of force. 245. Some criticisms of Zionism claim that Judaism's notion of the chosen people is the source of racism in Zionism. 246. Despite, according to Gustavo Podnik, that being a religious concept unrelated to Zionism. 247. This characterization of Zionism as a colonialism has been made by, among others, Gershon Schaefer, Michael Pryor, Alan Papp, and Barak Kimmerling. 23. Noam Chomsky, John P. Quigley, Noam Asselhar and Cheryl Rubenberg have criticized Zionism, saying that it unfairly confiscates land and expels Palestinians. 248. Isaac Deutscher has called Israelis the Prussians of the Middle East, who have achieved a top sieg, a victorious rush into the grave as a result of dispossessing 1.5 million Palestinians. Israel had become the last remaining colonial power of the 20th century. 249. Saleh Abdeljawad, Noor Maslha, Michael Pryor, Ian Lustig, and John Rose have criticized Zionism for having been responsible for violence against Palestinians, such as the Deghasin massacre, Sabra and Shatila massacre, and Cave of the Patriarchs massacre. 250. Edward Said and Michael Pryor claim that the notion of expelling the Palestinians was an early component of Zionism, citing Hearst's theory from 1895, which states we shall endeavor to expel the poor population across the border unnoticed. The process of expropriation and the removal of the poor must be carried out discreetly and circumspectly. 251. Derek Penzler says that Hearst may have been considering either South America or Palestine when he wrote the diary entry about expropriation. 252. According to Walter Lackyor, although many Zionists proposed transfer, it was never official Zionist policy, and in 1918 Ben-Gurion emphatically rejected it. 253. The exodus of the Arab Palestinians during the 1947-1949 war has been controversially described as having involved ethnic cleansing. 254. 255. According to a growing consensus between new historians in Israel and Palestinian historians, expulsion and destruction of villages played a part in the origin of the Palestinian refugees. 256. While British scholar Ephraim Karsh states that most of Arabs who fled left of their own accord or were pressured to leave by their fellow Arabs, despite Israeli attempts to convince them to stay. 257. 258. New historians dismiss this claim. 259. And as such, Benny Morris concur that Arab instigation was not the major cause of refugees' flight. 260. And state that the major cause of Palestinian flight was instead military actions by the Israeli Defense Force and fear of them, and that Arab instigation can only explain a small part of the exodus and not a large part of it. 261. 262. 263. 264. 265. 266. Alan Papp said that Zionism resulted in ethnic cleansing. 267. This view diverges from other new historians, such as Benny Morris, who placed the Palestinian exodus in the context of war, not ethnic cleansing. 268. When Benny Morris was asked about the expulsion of Palestinians from Lyre and Ramle, he responded, "There are circumstances in history that justify ethnic cleansing. I know that this term is completely negative in the discourse of the 21st century, but when the choice is between ethnic cleansing and genocide, the annihilation of your people, I prefer ethnic cleansing." 269. In 1938, Mahatma Gandhi said in the letter The Jews, that the establishment of a Jewish national home in Palestine must be performed by non-violence against the Arabs, comparing it to the partition of India into Hindu and Muslim countries. He proposed to the Jews to offer themselves to be shot or thrown into the Dead Sea without raising a little finger against them. 270. He expressed his sympathy for the Jewish aspirations, but said, "The cry for the national home for the Jews does not make much appeal to me. The sanction for it is sought in the Bible and the tenacity with which the Jews have hankered after return to Palestine. Why should they not, like other peoples of the earth, make that country their home where they are born and where they earn their livelihood?" 271. And warned them against violence. "It is wrong and inhuman to impose the Jews on the Arabs. Surely it would be a crime against humanity to reduce the proud Arabs so that Palestine can be restored to the Jews partly or wholly as their national home. They can settle in Palestine only by the goodwill of the Arabs. They should seek to convert the Arab heart. 272. Gandhi later told American journalist Louis Fisher in 1946 that Jews have a good case in Palestine. If the Arabs have a claim to Palestine, the Jews have a prior claim. 273. He expressed himself again in 1946, nuancing his views. Hitherto I have refrained practically from saying anything in public regarding the Jew-Arab controversy. I have done so for good reasons. That does not mean any want of interest in the question. But it does mean that I do not consider myself sufficiently equipped with knowledge for the purpose. He concluded, if they were to adopt the matchless weapon of nonviolence, their case would be the world's, and I have no doubt that among the many things that the Jews have given to the world, this would be the best and the brightest. 274. In December 1973, the UN passed a series of resolutions condemning South Africa and included a reference to an unholy alliance between Portuguese colonialism, apartheid and Zionism. 275. At the time there was little cooperation between Israel and South Africa. 276. Although the two countries would develop a close relationship during the 1970s. 277. Parallels have also been drawn between aspects of South Africa's apartheid regime and certain Israeli policies toward the Palestinians, which are seen as manifestations of racism in Zionist thinking. 278. In 1975 the UN General Assembly passed Resolution 3379, which said Zionism is a form of racism and racial discrimination. According to the resolution, any doctrine of racial differentiation of superiority is scientifically false, morally condemnable, socially unjust, and dangerous. The resolution named the occupied territory of Palestine, Zimbabwe, and South Africa as examples of racist regimes. Resolution 3379 was pioneered by the Soviet Union and passed with numerical support from Arab and African states amidst accusations that Israel was supportive of the apartheid regime in South Africa. 279. In 1991 the resolution was repealed with UN General Assembly Resolution 46/86. 280, after Israel declared that it would only participate in the Madrid Conference of 1991 if the resolution were revoked. 281, Arab countries sought to associate Zionism with racism in connection with the 2001 UN Conference on Racism, which took place in Durban, South Africa. 282, which caused the United States and Israel to walk away from the conference as a response. The final text of conference did not connect Zionism with racism. A human rights forum arranged in connection with the conference, on the other hand, did equate Zionism with racism and censured Israel for what it called racist crimes, including acts of genocide and ethnic cleansing. 283, Haredi Judaism and Zionism. Some Haredi Orthodox organizations reject Zionism as they view it as a secular movement and reject nationalism as a doctrine. Hasidic groups in Jerusalem, most famously the Satmar Hasidim, as well as the larger movement they are part of, the Ida HaCharedes, area opposing its ideology for religious reasons. They number in the tens of thousands in Jerusalem, and hundreds of thousands worldwide. One of the best-known Hasidic opponents of political Zionism was Hungarian Rebbe and Talmudic scholar Joel Teitelbaum. Members of Nechia Yakarta holding Palestinian flags and placards saying that Judaism condemns the State of Israel and its atrocities in London 2022. The Nechia Yakarta, an Orthodox Haredi sect viewed as a cult on the farthest fringes of Judaism by most mainstream Jews, reject Zionism. 284. The Anti-Defamation League estimates that fewer than 100 members of the community, around 5,000 members, 285, actually take part in anti-Israel activism. 284. Some have said that Israel is a racist regime. 286. Compared Zionists to Nazis. 287. Claimed that Zionism is contrary to the teachings of the Torah. 288. Or accused it of promoting antisemitism. 289. According to the Anti-Defamation League, members of Nechalia Carter have a history of extremist statements and support for notable antisemites and Islamic extremists. 200